Good morning, or perhaps it's good afternoon now. My name's Lesley Regan. I'm the chair of Wellbeing of Women and also a practicing clinician. And I'm very excited by this first of our 2026 webinars to be introducing you to a wonderful panel, three fabulous women, and they're going to be telling us all we need to know about sport, exercise and women's health. And perhaps most importantly, how you and I are going to future-proof our bodies. So we know that sport and exercise aren't just about improving your fitness. They really do help in your well-being and your future longevity and health. And it's not just about your mental well-being, it's also about your heart and your bone strength. We know, for example, women of my generation, and I'm happily postmenopausal, I know that my biggest problem will be becoming frail if I don't keep on doing weight-bearing exercise. And I've even invested in some weights now, which I use as often as I can goad myself into doing so. But anyway, we need to support our bodies, whatever age we are, through puberty, through pregnancy, the menopause, and the older years. And I think it's really important that we find ways that we can do that we enjoy. So rather than it be a chore and something that you dread, if you can find something that you can enjoy doing, then I think that always makes it a lot better. Often I talk to women in my clinics when I've got my clinical hat on and they say, oh, no, I can't stand this, that and the other. I said, well, tell you what, why don't you get an exercise bike and park it in your bedroom in front of a television or a laptop or something and watch a film, and suddenly you've done 45 minutes of, and you don't even recognize it. So things like that. Anyway, we're going to be really pleased about these panelists, because what I think they're going to help us with is overcoming the barriers that some of us will understandably have about organised exercise, like time pressures, and perhaps you feel a bit uncomfortable about the lumps and bumps in your body. And there are cultural factors for some women and some girls, and also concerns about general women's health issues such as periods and prolapse and incontinence that can really sometimes interfere quite significantly with a woman's ability to get on and exercise and future-proof her body. So we're going to hear about all sorts of tips, I think, because all three of my panel are really very specialist. We're going to be recording the webinar, and we have, and I should just tell you all this, we have a record number of over 1,000 people who've registered. So our most popular title yet, and I think actually many of our regular webinar attendees know now that if they sign up, then even if they're not able to make it because of work or childcare pressures, that they will receive the recording probably next week now, but they will get it and they'll be able to look at it again, enjoy it again, share it with their friends, forward it on, etc. All right then, so I'm going to stop whittering on to you now and get on to what you really want to hear about. And I'm going to start by introducing you to our guest speakers. And first of all, we've got Dr. Folusha. Folusha is just down there, you'll see, and she's Fit Dog Folu, and her name is Folusha Oluwajana, and she is, no, Oluwajana, sorry, is a UK-based GP, and she does an enormous amount of online health and fitness coaching, but she's got a particular interest, and that's why she's here, in women's health across the life course. So not just at one time, but right across the life course. And she has a BSc in sport and exercise medicine, and I think that she undoubtedly will be combining her medical expertise with all of the evidence that she's got from her BSc in sport and exercise medicine. So she's going to be talking to us. And then we've got Elizabeth Davies, who is a fitness coach, and she's founded This Woman Lifts. So I think that's talking to my point earlier about my weights. I bought my weights. She works with women of all ages to build up strength and muscle and power, supporting longevity and confidence and quality of life as well. And her first book, she's written two, Her first book is Training for Your Old Lady Body. So this is very, very relevant to me, and I should be buying copies and forwarding them on to my age group, focusing on training for a body that will support you now and in the decades to come. And it's going to be published in March this year. So I think you should order now to avoid disappointment. I should also mention that we're going to give you the link to her book if you'd like to get that. So it'll make it very, very easy for you. And then Kelly Gordon is another really important leading voice, and we're very thrilled to have her here because she's been promoting the importance of female participation and also tackling inequalities in sport. And as you can see, her leadership in this field has really started to be recognised. She's at England Netball. Kelly's the executive lead for the Netball Her initiative, including the recently launched I Wish I Knew campaign, which is redefining how the sport supports women and girls across every life stage. And we also are very proud to have the fact that we've made a partnership, Wellbeing of Women have made a partnership with Netball Her. And I think that partnership will go from strength to strength. It will benefit Netball Her, it'll benefit Wellbeing of Women, and it'll benefit all those girls and women who want to join into that group. So I think we're going to have a fun time, and we're going to now start off. I think I'm going to introduce each of these speakers, and they're going to give us some thoughts about things. I've already told you about them, so they don't need to do too much. So I'm going to start by asking Folusha Oluwajana to talk to us, and she's going to be covering how sport and exercise benefit women's health, including her journey, her personal journey, into how she got from being a GP and then into a trainer as well, and how she makes those two roles dovetail, and why exercise future-proofs women's health. And that's all I'm going to say, because I want her to do the talking, and I want our audience, and thank you audience for being here. Remember, we're recording this, so you'll be able to access it, share it. I want our audience to have the benefit of these three fabulous women. So over to you, Folusha. And I think you wanted to share some slides, didn't you? But in your own.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. I am Folusha, Dr. Folusha Oluwajana. I'm a GP. Folusha. Sorry, am I still muted? No, I'm not. You can hear me? Yeah. I'm a GP in London and also a qualified personal trainer and health and fitness coach. So let's start a bit about my background. So wait, let me just do that again. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I've messed this up this time. Is it sharing the right screen?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, it keeps showing something different on my screen. Okay, it's fine now. So my journey into fitness coaching. So I went to medical school, did GP training, and during my own general practice training, I went on my own health and fitness journey, trying to balance healthy living alongside a challenging training regime in hospital in general practice. I did have a BSc in sports and exercise medicine, which I did at medical school, which I was already interested in, but didn't really get the time or motivation really to implement it into my own lifestyle a bit later. But then as I did, it quickly became obvious, particularly in general practice, that I was seeing a lot of women coming in with the same issues: fatigue, weight gain, pain, mood disturbance, hormonal symptoms, menstrual problems, menopausal problems. And in most cases, these were not necessarily inevitable. They were either modifiable or maybe even completely preventable by lifestyle changes, particularly incorporating exercise. But most of these women, they were motivated. They were looking for help. It wasn't that they lacked motivation, but they lacked confidence and knowledge or the ability to find trustworthy guidance on these issues and how to achieve what they wanted and how to achieve it safely. But within the time pressures of the NHS, unfortunately, And general practice, I felt I was not able to really support these kind of women with these kind of problems in the depth that they really needed to actually see real change. The 10-minute appointment is not enough to do many things, I would say, controversially, particularly not a whole lifestyle change for a woman with health problems, family, work, life stress. So that pushed me to actually, I guess, find a way of being able to provide that guidance. I did my personal training qualification and then more training in coaching and lifestyle change so I could get more expertise in nutrition as well and lifestyle and behavior change. And now, alongside my general practice work, I combine my medical expertise and lifestyle coaching as an online coach to help women achieve real meaningful progress through exercise in particular, but also nutrition and lifestyle changes, because movement is part of medicine, especially when used properly. So the journey, how exercise future-proof so women's health. So it's a very powerful tool because of that, it has immediate benefits, but also long-term benefits throughout the life of a woman. Major preventative benefits as well. So we really need to move away from just viewing exercise as punishment, as a chore, or something that's only about aesthetics and how you look, and start seeing it as a lifelong investment. Most people know that exercise is good for you. I'm pretty sure everyone on this call would agree that exercise is good for you. And even if you don't, there's a lot of overwhelming scientific evidence that will probably persuade you to agree that it is. But that's sometimes not enough to get someone to understand to really motivate someone to get into exercise. And it can be more relatable when you look at how it can actually affect you, especially at different points in your life. It builds physical reserve again across the stages throughout your life. Whether you start at the beginning or later, you are building resilience and reserve for the future. For example, in pregnancy, having a strong pelvic floor and core for exercise is going to support a more comfortable pregnancy, an easier delivery, better recovery after delivery, and reduce the risk of issues such as incontinence, pelvic dysfunction, and prolapse. As you move more into midlife, conditions like hypertension and cardiovascular disease become more common, and these actually remain the leading cause of death in women. Regular exercise strengthens the heart and lungs, lowers blood pressure, reduces against heart disease, and also improves your overall resilience and recovery. For example, even to a flu, like the big flu pandemic we just had, a chest infection, after surgery, if you have a healthier, stronger cardiorespiratory system, you are going to fare better in your long-term outcomes. Also, as we move a bit later into life, you might want to consider how exercise plays a key role in muscle and bone health. I know this is going to be discussed a bit more today as well, but strength training in particular helps maintain your bone density, so the strength in your bones, and muscle mass, which both deteriorate as we age. Falls and fractures are a major cause of morbidity in older women and can often lead to a significant decline and deterioration in health and independence, even premature death. So building strength and balance and bone density and muscle mass and maintaining it in later life is one of the most effective ways to do that. And throughout all life stages, exercise supports your mental well-being. It improves your mood, it helps with stress regulation, sleep quality, self-confidence, and all these things are as important as your physical health. So it's not just about how you look and feel now, it's also about how well your body can support you in the long run. So we'll also talk about exercise, hormones, and cancer. This is a very big topic, so we'll kind of do a quick summary. But it's particularly important for women to consider exercise in their lifestyles because how it can have an effect on the hormones. Regular exercise improves things like insulin sensitivity, reduces chronic inflammation. We know these are conditions that are directly related to health problems such as polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, where metabolic and inflammatory factors play a significant role. It also can support menstrual health and fertility more broadly. It can improve energy levels, reduce endorphins that support your mood, and reduce symptoms associated with PMS for many women. And around the menopause, exercise can be a very useful tool in managing metabolism. So we know that a lot of women will see changes in fat distribution, how their body responds to food and lifestyle. And exercise can be a way of managing that and managing weight changes associated with that, but also preserving the muscle and bone mass, as mentioned before, supporting mood, anxiety, improving sleep, all these symptoms which commonly deteriorate around the menopause. And then beyond hormones, exercise also reduces disease risk, particularly diseases like cancer. There is clear evidence that physical activity or lack of physical activity is associated with particular cancers, particularly breast and bowel cancers, breast cancer being the most common cancer in women. This is important to highlight because the risk exists outside of body weight. So typically we associate lack of exercise and obesity, obesity still being a risk, with increased risk of cancer. But the evidence shows that even with a healthy weight, physical inactivity does increase the risk of these conditions. But it's important to exercise in a way that suits your body. More and more exercise is not always better for hormonal health. The type, intensity and frequency of exercise you do matters, and allowing yourself adequate recovery and proper nutrition as well alongside that. So you should exercise in a way that suits your body, your physiology and your lifestyle. And following on from that, what is the best exercise? There's no best exercise, there's no best workout for everyone. Everybody's different. It's going to depend on yourself, your body, your ability, your schedule, and the goals that you want to achieve. But there are some key principles or take homes that you can use to get started. If possible, regular strength training 2 or 3 times a week is a really good foundation to implement into a routine. Whether it's with weights or like Leslie's mentioned that she's got her weights, or if you're doing bands at home, body weight exercises, anything that stimulates the muscle and your bone can offer significant health benefits both to your physique, but also, as we discussed, huge benefits to your health long term. Regular cardiovascular exercise is essential for heart and lung health. You don't need to start training for a marathon if you don't want to. Walking is actually probably the most underrated form of exercise. It's very effective for strengthening your heart and lungs and getting you fit, helping you lose weight. It's also free. It's relatively accessible if your mobility allows. It's not overly challenging, easy to recover from, which makes it very sustainable and easy to implement into your routine. Mobility and balance is also something that becomes more important with age to focus on, particularly to reduce the risk of falls and injury later in life. But the most common barriers I see that women find or maybe report when it comes to exercise is time. Time is probably the biggest thing. I don't think anyone here would say they feel they have an excess of time in their lives right now. So that is a very common reported barrier, but something is always better than nothing. So even if you look up to or see someone who's doing an hour training every day and walking for 10,000 steps every day, something is still better than nothing. So if it's a short, efficient session, if it's a short workout at home, if it's a short walk around the park at lunchtime, it's better than doing nothing. And also, you have to be honest and realize that you won't find the time. The time to exercise won't come to you. You have to make the time. So you do have to make it a priority. And if you can carve out a short amount of time in your busy routine, that will help get you started. Fear of injury or doing it wrong, lack of knowledge is another common barrier. Ultimately, the best solution is to seek guidance rather than avoiding things altogether. Whether that's reputable online sources, going to classes, working with a PT or a coach, learning how to move and modifying exercises to suit your body is very useful and reduces your risk of injury and also builds your confidence long term. But confidence is a barrier itself. Sometimes you may feel intimidated going to the gym, for example, or going to a class that you've never done. So I encourage you to choose environments that feel safe, supportive, and inclusive, whether that's just working out at home, working out with a friend, or going to a women's only class, or going to a class that's targeted for women for your age group or ability. Choosing those safer areas can make a huge difference to your confidence and then allow you to progress even further. But progression over perfection, you don't need to start super high level. You don't need to be aiming to be powerlifting, as I said, running marathons or sprinting. You just need to start and build gradually. And ultimately, the best exercise is the one that you can do safely, consistently, and enjoy long enough to sustain it. And that is it from me.
Well, I think that's lovely. Thank you very much. Now, my favourite of your last slide is the something is better than nothing. And I think that's really, really important, because I think sometimes when I'm encouraging my patients to get on with an exercise program and saying, oh, I haven't got just a little bit is better than nothing. So that's really, really good. Yes, and I've got bands as well, Folusha, not just weights. So I'm really, really trying. I'm trying to make up for lots of bad behaviour over many years, because I'm so worried that I'll fracture something major. And I think often, and we're going to move on to Elizabeth in a moment, who's going to talk a bit more about fracture risks. But I know I fractured my wrist very badly about 7 or 8 months ago. And it really came home to me how lucky I was that I hadn't fractured my hip or my femur. Because it was a real crash that I had, and I thought, wow, I think that's probably proof of the pudding that I am quite fit. And so it's really, really important, because I think sometimes, and I'm not saying this to be scary, but women don't realise that over the age of 60, if you fracture your femur, there's an actual mortality involved in this. You know, 1 in 10 women will actually, not make it through the next year completely. So on that rather gloomy message, I'm going to move over to Elizabeth, because she's going to sort of take that point which Folusha has beautifully set out for us there. Thank you for the slides. Lots of people have been appreciative. There's masses and masses of questions that we're going to have to get through. So over to you, Elizabeth, and thank you so much. Remember that she's got her book out, and she's founder of This Woman Lifts. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dame Lesley. So my journey into strength training, my slightly bonkers journey into strength training, I actually had a former life as a barrister. I was a lawyer for over 10 years. And after I'd had my first 2 kids, I've subsequently added a third, I was in the gym doing a circuits class, and one of the stations was skipping. And I hadn't done skipping in quite a long time. I was about 18 months postpartum. I grabbed the rope, tried to do it, missed the rope several times, finally managed, and realized I had wet myself. And this was just such a mortifying and overwhelming experience to go through. I thought I was reasonably fit, reasonably healthy. I'd lost the baby weight. I looked back to normal. And yet there was this part of my body that wasn't functioning as I needed it to. There was a lot of taboo and stigma back then. That was 2016, 10 years ago. I think things have moved along a little bit since then. But I remember kind of going home and Googling and just being so overwhelmed. And I think that experience kind of showed me how little I knew and understood about my body. And it kind of planted this seedling of leaving law and qualifying as a personal trainer, which is what I did. Now, on my personal training course, I was lucky to have this fabulous tutor, and he was a powerlifting coach. And I'd never done any kind of structured strength training before. I tended to gravitate more towards cardio. That felt a lot more familiar. It felt safer. And like many women, I'd had a relationship with exercise where it was about being thin, burning calories, earning your food, and I'd always gravitated towards cardio. He offered to write a simple structured strength training program for me. It wasn't anything particularly complicated. I think it was 2 sessions a week, maybe 3, basic movement patterns, a squat pattern, a hinge pattern, so a glute bridge or a deadlift or a hip thrust, a pull movement, so a row, and a push movement, maybe a shoulder press or a bench press, a push-up. And I worked through this program for sort of 12 weeks. Again, that was alien to me because I'd never repeated exercises again and again. I'd always thought that you're meant to change things up to keep your body guessing. So I repeated these exercises, and each week I was just trying to be a little bit better at them. And that could have been doing extra weight or adding more reps. But as a beginner, it was really trying to be better at the movements. So squatting a little bit deeper when I could, feeling a little bit more confident in my body with these movements. And it was really game changing for me. Aches and niggles that I'd sort of had for months or years started to go. Motherhood, with all the lifting that involves, buggies and kids and scooters that they promised they were going to ride and then they don't want to ride, so you end up carrying them. It all felt easier. And moreover, I just felt this new confidence in my body. And I started to just feel a lot less preoccupied with body image, with this idea of thinness, because in order to get the most out of my sessions, I needed to be fueling well. I needed to be prioritizing sleep, stress management. I realized that actually, if I'm not looking after myself, I can't get those numbers to creep up. I actually don't feel strong. And that was a really transformative experience to go through. When it comes to what exercise should you be doing, I really echo Dr. Folusha. What you enjoy, what is sustainable, what is repeatable, what can you do for the long haul? So that is always the starting point, because the best exercise for you is the exercise you actually do regularly and consistently. If you try and force yourself into something that you don't enjoy, it's probably not going to end up so well. That said, though, I really do want all women to be working towards including strength training a couple of times a week, which is reflected in the World Health Organization guidelines. Muscle strengthening exercises targeting all the major muscles 2 times a week or more. Strength training is simply working your muscles against an external resistance. That's why we use the words resistance training interchangeably. So it doesn't have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be super heavy. It can be, as Dr. Folusha has said, resistance bands. It can be your own body weight, like in a push-up. That's strength training. It can be with free weights. And the beauty of free weights is they give you the opportunity to apply what we call progressive overload. So continually trying to just increase the challenge over time, so that your body has a reason to continue to adapt, because bodies are really, really clever. What you get them to do, they will get better at doing. And if we want them to continue to get better, we have to give them a little bit more over time. So what's really, really important is that you are loading your skeleton and your muscles in a challenging way, whatever that means for you and your current point or your starting point, and you're progressing over time to encourage further adaptation. You may have heard the phrase, use it or lose it. And it's exactly what it says, okay? Without stimulus, without actually making our muscles work, loading our bones, we will start to lose muscle, strength, bone density fairly early on. You know, we start to lose muscle mass from our 30s. Bone density, menopause is a real catalyst for that. As estrogen levels drop, estrogen is protective of bones, and many women can see quite a steep drop off as they go through the menopause transition. So we want to be proactive, okay? It's never too late to start, but being reactive makes you feel a little bit like you're on the back foot. So what if we were proactive? What if we trained across our lifespan to sort of set ourselves up for older age? I often talk about training being paying into an old lady body pension. So every time I go into the gym and I work on my squats, or I work on my deadlifts, or I work on my rows, I'm imagining that I'm putting a little deposit into a pension pot for my future self. It's a little gift for future me. And I think this kind of mindset shift for me has been really helpful, because historically exercise has been sold to women as a short-term fix, often towards an aesthetic end goal. So it's the 6-week plan to get you bikini ready. It's the 4-week plan to get you into your little black dress for Christmas. It's a fixed period of time, and the outcome is you look hot for this event. And it's just such a shame. It really sort of undersells the benefits of exercise for our current and also our future selves. There's nothing wrong with an aesthetic goal. The problem is these aesthetic goals are fragile. The goalposts are always shifting. Beauty standards are one thing 1 minute and another thing the next. And so you're sort of trying to keep up with this movable feast. When you shift the focus, when it's no longer about kind of fixing problem areas, but about supporting your body, looking after your body for now and for the future, things start to shift, because this is the body that you get to live in for decades, if you're lucky. Think of all the things you do now that maybe you take for granted, and think about what you want to be doing in your 70s, your 80s. You know, not just the basic stuff like getting in and out of chairs or getting something down from a shelf, but the fun stuff as well. You know, I love walking. I love going for walks. I live in the countryside, and walks involve balancing in mud, pulling open gates, climbing over stiles. I want to be able to enjoy those walks for as long as possible. So I regard my training as setting me up for that kind of future old lady body and all the things I want to be able to do. Dr. Folusha spoke a little bit about barriers. I want to touch on those as well. She's kind of hit the big ones: the lack of time, the lack of knowledge, the lack of confidence. I think there's another thing for women, which is, and it ties in with all of those, so many women I work with tend to put themselves at the bottom of the pile, and exercise feels like this indulgence or this treat, you know, taking a chunk of time to exercise when there's laundry to be done and chores to be done and meals to prepare, on top of work commitments and all of those things, and trying to maintain a social life. It feels like a lot. My daughter has just turned 13, and because of my work, we're lucky to have a gym at home. And she's taken to wanting to go into the gym after work. They've introduced them in PE to some different circuits classes that they can follow on YouTube, and she's really keen. Then she'll often come home from school and she'll have loads of stuff to do. She'll have her bag to sort, homework to do, loads of stuff for the next day. And she'll say, I want to go in the gym, but I've got so much to do, Mummy. What should I do? And I say to her, if you want to move your body, go and do that first, because actually once you've done that, all the other stuff becomes a lot less overwhelming. It becomes a lot more manageable. And I think it might not happen in time for my generation, but for the next generation, what I really hope we can achieve is this understanding that exercise isn't the thing you do when the rest of the to-do list is done. It's the thing that makes the entire to-do list possible. And that's what I hope to pass on to her. And I think that's something worth dwelling on when we think about our own barriers.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's a lovely conclusion. And I so agree with you. And love that comment about the stress incontinence 18 months after your baby. Because, I mean, I often say in my Women's Health Ambassador role, when I'm talking to people in government or in the civil service, you know, it's all very well, you know, you may be a very enlightened family and you may come home and talk about the menopause or menstruation at the dinner table. I bet no one says, oh goodness, do you know what happened to me in Tesco's today? Somebody bumped into me and I leaked. It was so embarrassing. It went all over my beautiful trousers or whatever. And everyone looks totally shocked. We can't say things like that. I said, well, I'm just said it, you know, of course we can.
Yeah.
So we really do need to talk about that, and it's so important. And 1 in 3 women over the age of 60 have a degree of leakage. So this is a really common problem. So thank you for explaining and sharing with us your journey, because I think that's really great, and how you're passing it on to the next generation. I wish somebody had told me that when I had masses and masses of homework. It would have been really good. Now, Kelly, over to you, because I'm really wanting to, really sort of herald the fact that we've got this fabulous partnership with Netball Her, and I hope it's going to be an introduction into women's sport in general. And we're going to talk, Kelly and I are going to talk about that and the partnerships we can form. But over to you, because I think you've also got some slides, and we're all busting to hear about what you're going to tell us about.
Thank you, Dame Lesley. I do have slides, so just bear with me 2 seconds.
And so many people are agreeing here that they try to do something after work and life often takes over. Lots of people are empathizing with that. So we can all see your slides. That's pretty clear. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the tip of this has been perfect, because I'm going to sort of, I guess, share with you what a lot of what Folusha said and Elizabeth said, how we've taken that and put it into practice in netball. So I'm going to talk you through the initiative called Netball Her, which in essence is England Netball's approach to supporting women and girls with their female health and well-being at all life stages. So we launched Netball Her 4 years ago, and the premise of Netball Her is what says on the slides there. So it's a movement built with female health experts. So that's a really key point there, that we as a governing body of sport aren't female health experts. And I will always say I've got lived experience of a menopausal woman, but I'm not a female health expert. So we need to make sure we're working with the people that do know. So I'll talk a little bit more about our partnership with Wellbeing of Women as part of that. And also our partners and our netball family, to make sure that we can build the best support and the best resources to support women and girls with their female health and female well-being at all life stages. So that in essence is what Netball Her is. But I just wanted to share with you why we've taken this approach. A lot of people would think about a governing body as delivering programs and supporting clubs and doing all the other governance stuff that a governing body does. But actually, when we look at our data and insight, and this has come through in the conversations today, we just see these huge drop-offs in sport and physical activity at those key life stages. So where women and girls need sport the most, for all the reasons we've talked about today, they leave sport. So girls, 41% of teenage girls drop off of playing sport, and they were the ones that were previously active. So they're leaving sport at a time when they really do need it the most. 69% of women take a break from playing netball at some point in their lives, and that does tend to be at those key life stages. So 20% being due to pregnancy, and they never return to the game. And then we've got that 33% who reduce their physical activity during menopause. So for all the reasons that we've talked about today, but we as a sport weren't really doing anything about that. So we were sort of just getting on with delivering the sport and not supporting those women to stay in the game. So that was the key reason. The other big thing connected to that is that the lack of female health education just increases the confusion and stigma. And I've been keeping a little eye on the chat as we've been going through, and just all those questions around, should I be doing that? Shouldn't I be doing that? When should I return to playing netball post-pregnancy? What do I do if I'm leaking? There's loads of stories around leaking in netball, and obviously being a slightly high impact sport. So just confusion, and that leads to, do you know what, it's just easier for me not to play. So the other thing around all of that is that generally the sports system is designed for men, built by men. And actually, as a female sport, predominantly played by females, we need to change that sporting infrastructure to be able to be right and for women, and make sure that it's designed for women in mind. And the last point there is around the cultural barriers. So we've definitely found that in our sport and other sports, that how women feel when they're engaged in sport can be whether they do or don't feel like they can belong, and a lot of that's to do with cultural barriers. So that's the main reason why we developed Netball Her.
I can't be the only one who has been held back.
Just going to skip through the video. So who is it for? So predominantly the whole of the netball family. So that's right from your grassroots player from 5 all the way through to your 95-year-old who, believe it or not, still engaged in netball, walking netball being a key one. For the Roses, so they're the England team, and we're doing a lot of work with female health support at an England level, and also for the England netball workforce, so those that work for England netball, and also for those that are supporting her on the court, be that the coach, the leader, the parent. So it's basically for everybody. So you've heard about why we do what we do, and what I want to share with you is what it is. So there's fundamental parts to how we're landing netball her. And all of that means that we can change the system. So the first part is around our environment. So making sure that they're female friendly, they're safe, they're accessible, they've got period products in venues, they've got access to court short kits, we've got change of kit in them. So if there is some leakage, to address some of the points today, it's not embarrassing, they can go and change, or if they have a leak in their with their periods, they can quickly go and get access to period products. So that's a big thing that we do. The big side of Netball Her is around our information we've got online. So netballher.co.uk has got resources and infographics and storytelling across all life stages, from puberty through to menopause, free to access, downloadable resources, accessible infographics, etc. And then the second part to that is the learning offer. That is for members only, but it is free, and that covers learning across all life stages. The other key part, which is a lot of the points have been alluded to today, is that all of this work that we're doing around helping women understand their bodies, feel supported, needs to be embedded in their programs. So be that the Back to Netball program that a woman's involved with, Walking Netball, whether that's in a club, whether that's in a league. So we've taken all of the best ways of supporting women and girls. But for example, building pelvic floor exercises into warm-ups, making sure that our program, which is called Jump High Land Strong, which is all about strength and conditioning, is built into delivery. So it's not something that's done on the side, it's not something that's expected to be elsewhere, it's in their sport and in their environments. And that's a really fundamental part of what we're doing. It's not just allowing women to go off and learn for themselves, it's actually taking it to them in the sport that they love. And then the other part then is making sure that that's all backed up with policies. So everything that we do outward facing has then got a policy that backs it up. So for example, inclusive sportswear, we've signed up to the charter, and we make sure that we've got a inclusive sport kit offer. The key change for us last year was a realization that this is all well and good, but again, with a lot of the chat that's happened today, and I'm sure a lot of people that joined, there's still a lot of confusion around how women and girls engage in sport, a lot of questions, a lot of taboos. And as much as Netball has had massive impact, there's still so much more we could do with it. So we really stopped and thought, okay, why? How can we get more women and girls engaged in Netball Her and make sure they feel supported? And actually what we realised was that the information that the reason why they weren't accessing information is because we needed to drive that curiosity, we needed to drive that awareness, and then we needed to get them to keep on asking the questions to be able to then say, okay, well, you've asked this question, here's some information on the website for you to find your answer. So that's where we landed on the I Wish I Knew campaign, which Dame Lesley mentioned at the start. And the I Wish I Knew campaign is exactly what it says. And Lesley, you said the exact words before. I wish I knew about, I think, leakage in Tesco's or whatever the example was. That's the exactly reason why we've launched I Wish I Knew, because so many people over the last 4 years have said, I just wish I knew how to strengthen my pelvic floor so I didn't leak playing netball. I wish I knew how important it was to wear a sports bra. I wish I knew what to eat. Thousands of stories that we kept on hearing. So we've developed the I Wish I Knew campaign for people to share those stories. And what we then want to do off the back of that is when they've shared their stories, we can then say, you find your answer, and we give them the link to the relevant page or the relevant infographic on the Netball Her website. A key part to this now, jumping to our partnership with Wellbeing of Women, is around how we take all those I Wish I Knew, which we've now got thousands of people that have shared their I Wish I Knews, and give people the answers to those. So hot off the press, we're going to launch a new webinar series, which is all answering all the questions to people's I Wish I Knews. So that's going to cover all life stages, puberty, menstrual health dysfunctions. Someone mentioned in the chat around fibroids. We're going to have a real focus on menstrual health dysfunctions and what that means for women and how they can support themselves whilst playing the game. It's going to cover pre-postnatal. That's the first one we're kicking off with. And we're also going to have a special one that's focused on men and male allies. And we have a lot around dads asking questions around how do I support my teenage girl. So yeah, that's the series. We're going to launch that series over the next couple of weeks. And the first one's going to be pre-postnatal and kicking off in March, which is all really exciting. So I just wanted to share with you the I Wish I Knew video. Hopefully you can hear this.
I wish I knew that really heavy and painful periods weren't necessarily normal.
I wish I knew how much my ACL injury would affect my mental health. What I wish I'd known sooner is more around understanding my body.
I wish I knew more about fertility.
I wish I knew how many girls step away from sport because of the barriers relating to health and confidence.
I wish I'd known more about menopause before I actually went through it.
For me, I guess I just wish I knew how much my menstrual cycle would affect my training and competition.
I wish I knew when I was growing up how to properly fuel my body for netball.
I wish I knew how to do pelvic floor exercises properly.
I wish I knew that success.
Oh, I'm going to clap. I think it's marvellous. Well done, Kelly. Lovely. Really, really great. And
I wish I knew that
apologies. Thank you. Yeah, that probably best describes what the campaign is. And actually what's really interesting with that is that those roses that you saw in that video at the start of when we launched Netball Her were very nervous and very awkward about sharing their stories. Now you can't shut them up. They want to share because it's just, it's so important to them. Quickly, just to leave you on a few takeaways. If you're interested in accessing the free resources, there's the link to the website. Loads of downloadable infographics on there for you to put up in surgery doors, in sports environments, for you to use at home, share with your girls, etc. Mentioned the learning offer. There's also an opportunity to be part of the Netball Her community. If you've got an I Wish I Knew that you'd love to share, please do, because that will help inform the content we use for the workshops, the webinars. And then if you are interested in doing some work locally, we've got an amazing team out there that is working locally with female health organisations to deliver some of this. And finally, if you'd love to play the game and this has given you a bit of inspiration to either start playing netball again or signpost, there's a link there on the England Netball website. So thank you. Sorry, that's such a whistle-stop tour.
No, it's fabulous. Thank you very much indeed. I think we're all thrilled by that. And all three of you have tackled it quite differently, which is exactly what we were hoping. And we've got rave reviews on the chat. We really have. And as I say, lots of people are really pleased. They've come in and gone out again because they've got other things they've got to do, but are really pleased that they're going to be able to see the resource in their own time going forward. So, I mean, I think you've actually covered the whole thing, haven't you? It's been absolutely great. But the wish I knew, I'm just thinking to myself, I do love a QR code. And for someone of my generation to say they love a QR code is quite something, I think. But I do, because it's so translatable. And I'm just immediately thinking, oh, we could get that onto apps, couldn't we? And yeah, I'm trying hard to get things onto the NHS app, but I'm being told off all the time for that. But anyway, not to worry. I will find a way. So I think that, I think if I was now to go back to Folusha and say, so Folusha, having seen some of this chat, and so many people resonating with what you were saying about the time constraints and what you could do if you understand that a little bit is better than nothing. What would your last few comments to the audience be here? I love the point about sleeping as well, because I think that's something that we forget about, don't we? We think that sport is all about, yeah, as you said, bodies, but your sleep and your well-being is really important. Perhaps you could just, embellish on that for a few moments.
Yes, quickly, how to summarize. That is something I do address quite intentionally in my own coaching fitness, is the health and well-being outside of just exercise and nutrition, because it's often underestimated the impact of sleep, digestion, hydration, recovery will have impact on your progress and your health. So you can be trying to exercise, trying to eat healthy, but if you're not prioritizing good sleep, if you're not feeling recovered, actually you might be doing yourself a disservice in the long run, both physically and mentally. So it does sometimes feel like there's, so many things to think about, particularly, for most of the women in here who have very busy lives and, children, jobs, but it's about being quite intentional. You do have to prioritize making time. You don't have to be doing long stints of working on this, but being intentional is, how can I get a bit of exercise in, and how is that impacting my sleep? How is my life impacting my sleep? And finding a little balance that works for you. For some women, you might be working out once a week. That's where you start. That's fine. If you're able to work out or train more, that's fine. But don't exercise to the detriment of other aspects of your life. I would say that is quite important, because that's when it's not sustainable. Yes, in terms of well-being.
I think my very clumsy start off about choose something that you enjoy, or you can learn to enjoy, or you can fit into your crazy lifestyle is probably the best way. So that's great. So Elizabeth, tell us, I mean, I was just smiling to myself when you started off and explained to me that you'd been a barrister. And I wonder what your head of chambers thought when you announced you were leaving to be a sports trainer.
I mean, I'd already left chambers long before then, because I realised that the life of a self-employed barrister was not for me. So I was actually an employed barrister within a law firm, which suited me a lot better. Okay. But yes, I think a lot of my former colleagues think that I'm quite bonkers.
But as you know, but what is so evident from what you said is that you're not bonkers, and that actually your life has improved quality-wise dramatically. So what would your take-home message for our audience be today? I mean, I know we've had so much great content, and if any of you are worried about whether your content was being appreciated, you just need to look at the chat. I mean, it's sort of glowing. It's sort of resonating out of the screen at me. So,
yeah.
What I think your take home be?
My take home would be, and having seen a few comments there in the chat about prolapse, leaking, pain, what I would say, there's a lot of worry. Oh, isn't it risky? Isn't strength training risky? Am I going to hurt myself? I would say the bigger risk is going to be being weak. That is going to be the bigger risk in terms of your falls risk and the knock on that can have on your independence and just your ability to kind of go about your day-to-day tasks competently and confidently. So just try to think, it's not what you do, it's usually how you do it, okay? We want to think about how much you're doing, how often you're doing it, and as Dr. Folusha said, how you're recovering from it. Let's take the example of a squat. If you are experiencing knee pain or leaking or prolapse symptoms in your squat, there is so much you can modify. Experiencing those things doesn't mean, oh no, I have to stop altogether and never do this again. It means, okay, this is time for me to listen and get curious. Just taking a squat, you could change your setup, how wide or how narrow your feet are. How does that feel? You could change your range of motion. Try not going so low. How does that feel? You could reduce the load if you're using a weight, slash it by 30 or 50%. How does that feel? If you're doing a back squat, how does it feel instead if you do a goblet squat, and vice versa? Where are you holding that load? How much are you doing? Are you symptomatic after 3 sets? What if you rest a little bit longer between sets? What if you only do 2 sets or 1 set and build from there? What effort level are you working at? What are you doing with your breath? What if you try exhaling a little bit more consciously? What if you switch out the squat for a while and do a leg press machine? There are so many options. A lot of us are perfectionists and we think we have to be following rules and doing things a very particular way. Be fluid, adapt to each lifestyle, meet these challenges with curiosity, and keep going in a way that is accessible for you.
Lovely. I think that really does sum it up, doesn't it? Really, really great. And, inspiring is a word that's becoming a bit commonplace on this chat now, and wonderful, wonderful take-home bon mots. So, Kelly, over to you. I'm so excited about our partnership. I really am, with Wellbeing of Women. And I'm hoping that we can use the traction that Wellbeing has now got across, in many, many different ways to really, really publicise this. It will be so exciting, I think. And so many people talking here about how they came to netball or they came to sport late and how great it is. And I think that point about always do something. It doesn't matter how, it's never too late. It's like I'm always saying to people, it's never too late to start prioritizing your health and well-being. So your take-home message for our fabulous audience.
Yeah, thank you. The chat's amazing. It's great Friday feeling. So yeah, thank you for that, everybody. Just I guess just to almost flip what team sport and female sport can do. So all the things that Elizabeth just said, and I do sport regularly and strength and conditioning regularly. For some women, that just doesn't work for them. Doing it at home or doing it in a gym or whatever.
Yeah.
The sense of belonging that team sport and female environments can give can be a real game changer for some women, and it's that mental well-being, being together, sense of belonging. So I think we just need to think about and we've said it many times on this, what's right for one person might not be right for another person. So if we can collectively make sure that netball's doing this and football's doing this and rugby's doing this and David Lloyd's doing this and all the other environments where women will be, that's where the change will be made. So I think it's just, there's something about us doing some really good work, which we're all doing, but how can we collectively do this? So wherever a woman goes that's right for them, they are getting this type of education support. So that would be my main thing. The wrap up to that is I'm also very excited about the partnership with Wellbeing of Women. What Wellbeing of Women give us that, as I said before, we're not, is female health specialism. So the webinar series is really going to pull in the experts from Wellbeing of Women with the real lived experience of netballers to really deep dive into some of these topics. Pre-postnatal is a massive one for netball. How do we get women back playing again? So I think the webinar series will be brilliant to really bring to life what we're talking about.
Fabulous, Kelly. Well, thank you so much. We really, really do appreciate it. And as you say, so many questions or comments have been in the chat about how girls, stop doing sport when they're menstruating. And I think what I'm going to do as well is get you involved in our schools program. So we've been running seminars called period workshops at schools, and we've got a recipe now that really works. And I think this will be a fabulous add-on to, well, not an add-on to it, it would have to be a separate thing. But I'm afraid you're going to regret coming onto this, because
not at all. I'm
going to be working all three of you really to death, because you've made such a wonderful contribution. So I think that's how I always have to finish, you see, quickly at 1 o'clock, because otherwise I get into trouble. Another area of trouble I get into. But I just want to say again to Folusha and to Elizabeth and to Kelly and to the wonderful Wellbeing of team who've helped to get this, well, not help me, they've done all the work to get this together, to advertise it. And I think that they must be feeling a bit proud of themselves today as well, because the comments in the chat have been so complimentary. So it's lovely. So I'm going to say to you all, please register for the next webinar. Please remember that you can get a copy of the recordings if you just register. Please sign up to our newsletter. Please, if you've got young girls who are of menstrual age, make sure that you go onto the Wellbeing of Women Just a Period part of the website, and you can scan the QR code to give your daughter questions, or your mum, or anyone who's of that age, and then it will give you the opportunity to have a summary of what your menstrual health or ill health is doing to take to your healthcare professionals. And we know, I think it's 70,000 or nearly 80,000 young people, well, menstruating people, I think, have signed up to that. And it's just so valuable. And I think it would be so great for all the sporting community. And I'm going to appoint all three of my panelists today to be ambassadors to help us move this forward. So on that note, thank you to everybody. Thank you to Wellbeing of Women, but most in particular, thank you to Kelly Gordon and Elizabeth Davies and Dr. Folusha Oluwajana. Thank you and bye-bye.